Welcome to MSP lecture series on main group chemistry. So let me begin today's lecture with discussion on aluminum hydrides. In my previous lecture I was discussing about boron hydrides and their preparation and their utility in organic synthesis. So let me now start discussion on aluminum hydrides. Aluminum hydride can be prepared by reacting aluminum trichloride with lithium aluminum hydride in ether. So, how that happens? So, AlCl3 plus lithium aluminum hydride, it gives so this is how one can make conveniently aluminum hydride, okay, or one can also call it as aluminane. Okay. So, however, the formation of etherate complexes because of electron deficiency complicates the synthesis. Okay. So, these compounds are highly unstable. Okay. So, above 423 Kelvin. Okay. So, these are unstable with respect to decomposition to give the corresponding element, that is aluminum and hydrogen. And since these are thermally unstable, so one can think of exploiting their property in generating thin films of aluminum. This is where utility of these things comes. In fact, volatile p block elements have been used in generating thin films. Aluminum hydride reacts with Lewis bases very similar to boron hydride to form the corresponding adducts. For example, let us take lithium aluminum hydride and treat this one with AlCl3 and so here this is another way of making it and then stabilizing them as adducts. For example, take lithium aluminum hydride and treat that one with aluminum chloride in presence of soft base such as triethylamine. It gives an adduct of AlH3 and LiCl will be precipitating out. Of course, this reaction can be carried out in a organic solvents such as ether. Now, let us look into some reactions of lithium aluminum hydride with organic compounds. Okay. So, lithium aluminum hydride. Okay. So, take this one, okay. Treat this one with halogen alkane or alkyl halide. It gives RH, okay. And one can also treat this one with an aldehyde, okay. So, this gives RCH2OH, okay. One can also treat this one with a ketone. So, it gives secondary, this is primary alcohol, so in this case what we get is a secondary alcohol R2 or CH2 CHOH, secondary alcohol we get it, and instead if we take an acid, it gives again a primary alcohol. Okay. And if you say take an acid chloride, it gives again primary alcohol. Okay. If we take an amide, one can get a primary amine. Treat this one with an azide, organic azide RN3, it gives amine. If you treat with a nitrile such as acetonitrile or benzonitrile, it gives primary amine. Okay. If it is treated with hydrogen peroxide, hydroperoxide, okay, it gives alcohol. If you treat with a peroxide, this is hydroperoxide and this is peroxide, it will give again alcohol. Okay. So, these are few reactions, and you can see how effectively one can use for a variety of organic transformations. Okay. And of course, one can also do reactions such as this one. For example, SiCl4, when it is treated with lithium aluminum hydride, it gives the silane SiH4, okay, and similarly PCl3, lithium aluminum hydride, gives PH3, okay, and one can also tetramethyl zinc, two minus. If it is treated with lithium aluminum hydride, it can give very unstable species. Of course, this is very unstable. Nevertheless, one can make tetrahydrozincate can be made, and it can also reduce metals. For example, AgCl, when it is treated with lithium aluminum hydride, okay, it gives silver. Okay. So, these are some of the reactions where you can find the utility of lithium aluminum hydride. Okay. So, let us look into digalene. Okay. The simplest gallium hydride is digalene. Digalene is nothing but Ga2H6, okay, and this is prepared starting from gallium trichloride, okay, and the product condenses at low temperature as a white solid, but decomposes about 253 Kelvin. So, one can conveniently prepare starting from gallium trichloride, treating this one with trimethylsilane as a as a source of hydride ions. Of course, the structure of this one is similar to ethane. Initially, what we get is this one, something like this, and this one on further treatment with lithium gallium hydride, okay, at 240 Kelvin, it gives okay. So, this is how one can make digalene. One can expect reactions of digalene very similar to diborane. Only thing one should remember is all reactions of digalene must be carried out at low temperature, since it decomposes about 253 Kelvin to give gallium and dihydrogen. Okay. Whatever the reactions I had described in case of diborane can be carried out using digalene, provided we maintain the temperature below 253 Kelvin. Now, let us look into oxides, oxo acids, oxo anions and hydroxides of group 13 elements. Within the P block, basic character increases down a group. This is true with most of the groups as well. Thus, boron oxides are exclusively acidic, but when you go for heavier ones, of course, aluminum is amphoteric and gallium also to an extent amphoteric, whereas indium and thallium oxides are exclusively basic, and thallium oxide, thallium 1 oxide is soluble in water, and the resulting hydroxide is a strong base and its basicity can be compared to potassium hydroxide. So, boron forms B2O3 and also several polyborates and also borosilicate glasses. Borosilicate glasses are very important in glass industry. Boron oxide B2O3 is acidic and is prepared by dehydration of boric acid. Okay. So, alkali metal and alkaline earth metal oxides are basic, whereas P block oxides are acidic, okay, and boron oxide is no exception. And one can prepare boron oxide by simply performing dehydration of boric acid. For example, 2BOH thrice solid, on heating it gives B2O3 plus 3H2O. Okay. The principal oxide of boron is B2O3 and it is obtained by dehydration of boric acid at red heat. So, that is what I showed you. So, water is taken up slowly by B2O2 giving back BOH thrice, that is called orthoboric or boric acid. BOH thrice is also called orthoboric acid, or simply it can be called as boric acid. But above 1270 Kelvin, molten B2O2 reacts rapidly with steam to give reacts rapidly with steam to give so this is called metaboric acid. And of course, when we look into the property, boric acid is a very weak Bronsted acid in aqueous solution. In fact, boric acid primarily a weak Lewis acid, and the complex it forms with H2O essentially is looks this way. Okay. So, and this the actual source of proton comes here. So, we can see this one from this reaction. So, proton so pKa for this one is 9.2. Okay. As is typical of many of the lighter elements of P block, there is a tendency for the anion to polymerize by condensation with the loss of water. Thus, in concentrated neutral or basic solution, equilibrium the one I am going to show will exist. For example, okay. Okay, some oxides of boron are shown in this slide. You can see here. So, B3O3 OH thrice will be something like this, and also B3O3 OH 4 times will be having something like the cyclic structure. Okay. And of course, through hydrogen bonding interaction, it can have a 2-dimensional sheet like structure. Sodium perborate. So, another interesting molecule. So, this is NaBO3 4H2O. This is NaBO3 4H2O. So, this is used as a bleach in laundry powders, automatic dishwasher powders, and also whitening toothpaste. So, although the formula is often given as NaBO3 4H2O, the compound contains the peroxide anion O2 2 minus. So, and is more accurately described in this way. So, it is appropriate to describe in this way instead of showing as it is solvated with 4 equivalents of water. So, one should conveniently precisely write in this way Na2 B2 O2, thus we have 2 peroxides OH. So, this is where its utility comes as a bleach plus 6. Okay. The correct description of sodium perborate is this one. The compound is preferred to hydrogen peroxide in many applications because it is more stable and liberates oxygen only at elevated temperature. So, accidental spillage does not lead to any complications that we come across with respect to hydrogen peroxide, especially when it is stored in larger quantities. From that point of view, this sodium perborate is preferred over hydrogen peroxide. So, in this slide I have shown some of the boron oxide and hydroxide peroxides and all those things you can see here. Okay. So, now let us look into the oxides of aluminum. Aluminum oxides occur in mainly 2 forms. One is alpha alumina, that is also called corundum, and also gamma alumina, that is called activated alumina. The alpha form is made by dehydrating aluminum hydroxide or aluminum oxyhydroxide at 1300 K, while dehydration of gamma aluminum oxyhydroxide below 720 Kelvin gives gamma or activated alumina. The amphoteric nature of alumina and trihydroxy aluminum can be illustrated in the formation of aluminate when AlOH thrice or aluminum hydroxide is dissolved in an excess of alkali. So, I will show you, I will write down all the equations for you. Okay. So, these reactions I am going to write essentially depict the amphoteric nature of oxides of aluminum. Okay. same reaction, but with H plus, that is acidic condition. It gives hexa-aqua aluminum compound. Okay. Similarly, aluminum hydroxide, if we treated with base, it gives soluble aluminum hydroxide or aluminate. Similarly, if it is treated with some of these reactions simply show the amphoteric nature of aluminum oxide and as well as aluminum hydroxide. Now, let us look into the oxides of gallium, indium and thallium. So, gallium, if you see gallium like aluminum forms more than one polymorphs of oxides. For example, Ga2O3 is known and gallium oxyhydroxide is known and also gallium hydroxide, very similar to aluminum, and the compounds are again amphoteric, very similar to aluminum, analogous aluminum compounds. Indium oxide, indium oxyhydroxide and indium hydroxide are essentially basic in nature, and thallium 3 compounds. Of course, you should remember thallium forms both thallium 1 compound and as well as thallium 3 compounds. Okay. So, thallium 3 forms the oxide Tl2O3, okay, but no simple hydroxide is known for that one, and this thallium oxide is insoluble in water and decomposes in under acidic condition or in acidic medium it decomposes. Thallium oxide on treatment with water it gives thallium hydroxide, thallium 1 hydroxide. So, in concentrated sodium hydroxide solution and in the presence of barium hydroxide, the hydrated oxide forms. Okay. So, hydrated oxide of thallium O2, thallium oxide forms a complex of this type. So, that means essentially Tl2O3 okay. So, plus barium hydroxide in sodium hydroxide gives a complex ion of this type Ba2 TiOH 6 times OH. Okay. So, in the solid state this anion trianion okay, is connected to barium 2 atoms and OH minus ions to give a structure that is related to that of K2PtCl6 potassium hexachloroplatinate. So, I have shown here. Okay. So, just I will show you in the next one how they are connected. For example, here you can see this is the hexahydroxy phthalate. Thalliate. So, here you can see all OH groups are octahedrally disposed here. This is taken from this paper here I have cited here, and of course, here you can see the coordination pair of thallium and how these 6 hydroxy groups are surrounding, and again each hydroxy group lone pair this okay, is interacting with barium. I have shown barium here. Okay, one of them I have labeled and this is oxygen. This is the monomeric unit, okay, and then this is how in the lattice it looks like, and this structure is very similar to potassium hexachloroplatinate here. Okay. So, lastly, before I conclude my talk, let me show you about borides. So, when boron is heated with most metals, okay, metal borides are formed similar to the carbides or silicides or hydrides we come across respectively, the reaction with carbon, silicon or hydrogen. The structure of these bore hydrides are dependent on the metal to boron ratio and contain single, pairs, chains, double chains, sheets or cluster of boron atoms. So, compounds with composition M2B we come across, okay, composition with M2B, okay, for example, Fe2B have single boron atoms. With those of FeB we have, okay, here single boron atom, and here in this case the ratio is 1:1, and here in this case basically what happens, we have a single chain of boron atoms running through the metal lattice. Okay. So, in Mb2 we also have another type of boride, that is called Mb2. So, in this one what happens, material has a sheet structure, that means one boron layer is there and above and below metals are there, it continues alternate arrangement of boron as well as metal sheets. Okay. So, example Mg_B2, okay, or titanium B2. Okay. So, we also have another one boride having composition 1:6. So, for example, magnesium is there. So, there are clusters of 6 boron atoms arranged in an octahedral fashion, okay, within the cube of a metal atom in a typical CsCl type structure, that is the FCC structure. In Mb12, okay, the last one, we have Mb12. In this one, okay, for example, aluminum. So, in this one basically what happens, we have an icosahedral B12 clusters surrounded by aluminum in the lattice. Okay. So, I will try to show you some of them here. You can see here a single chain running okay, here where the ratio is 1:1, and here ratio is 1:2 here. So, between two sheets of metal one boron sheet is there. Okay. And here again example is zirconium boride. You can clearly see between the two layers of metal this boron sheet is there. Okay. And here where the ratio is 1:6, you can see typically in a cubane at the center, okay, boron cluster is there, in which 6 boron atoms are essentially disposed towards 6 corners of an octahedron. So, their arrangement is octahedron, and also one can also see similar one where icosahedron will be there in case of a Mb12 boron hydride. So, let me stop here. In my next lecture I will be discussing about the halides of group 13 elements. So, thank you very much and have a pleasant reading of inorganic chemistry until I return with my next lecture. Thank you very much.